Word. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes. So thank you so much for taking your time out of your schedule to come tonight. I think now is a great time for us to get started.
Yeah, I'll start. Hi, everybody. Hey, Taylor. Hey, Liz. And everybody who's going to watch this, welcome to the Mom Burnout webinar that I've been talking so much about. I'm Kim Andrewson, a fellow mom here for all of the tips and tricks that Sean has to offer to avoid mom burnout. But I also work a little bit with Sean. I do a lot of the social media posts for his Cleary Counseling Facebook and Instagram accounts. Now, Sean is a board certified licensed professional counselor who got his master's degree in mental health counseling at the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. He also conducted research and gained clinical experience with the University of Pennsylvania and Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And now he's got his own practice in media where he specializes in stress, anxiety, depression, relationship problems, and so many other important mental health issues. So without further ado, let's do it.
Thank you so much for that introduction. As I was doing it, I was also muting my phone so that nobody interrupts me. Well, yeah. Thank you guys so much again for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I've done many webinars in the past, but this is the first one I'm kind of handling the technical side of on my own. So if there's any technical issues along the way, if you can't hear me, just put that little raised hand icon up and I'll try to address that. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our discussion tonight. Okay, excellent. So this has been a pretty difficult year for everybody. I know I've experienced a lot of new clients, different types of folks that I hadn't seen before or worked with before. So I thought, who are some of the people that are affected by this pandemic? Well, we've talked a lot about kids and teenagers. We've talked about folks with addiction and a variety of different people. But one group that I don't think we've talked enough about as far as trying to find some help and support are moms. So I thought, it's probably a really good idea to have some kind of webinar like this so that we can start the conversation. So that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. Is I'm going to present some info for about 25 to 30 minutes, then we'll open it up to questions. So I think the best way to handle this is if you have a question, feel free to type it into the chat that we have. If there's some like a technical issue or there's something that you need me to clarify, just raise your hand or give like a thumbs up or something, and I'll see that icon and try to go right to you. So yeah. So I think a really good place to start is with kind of a weird video. So I'm going to play this video. Let me make sure raise your hand or something if you can't hear the audio, and I'll try to fix that, but it should work. Okay. All right. I'm only going to play like a minute of this video, so just stick with it. Sound okay?
This boy and girl coming home from school look quite content with life. And why not? They're looking forward to an important date, dinner at home with the family. What's the matter? Doesn't that sound exciting to you? Well, to them it's a special occasion, as it has been ever since they sat down to dinner in high chairs. Why should they feel that way about something you take so completely for granted? Well, let's see if we can find out. First of all, daughter has changed from school clothes to something more festive. Dressing a little makes her feel and consequently look more charming. Even the table takes on a special air. Mother, too, changes from her daytime clothes. The women of this family seem to feel that they owe it to the men of the family to look relaxed, rested, and attractive at dinner time. Brother is spending an hour before dinner catching.
All right, quick clip of that video. How do we feel? Feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat. How do we feel about that video? The little bit of it that we saw.
I don't think anyone else is gonna unmute, but I mean, it's definitely not the way anything is now.
Okay,
I
so
think a lot-
different than.
Yeah, I think a lot of the responsibility is just assumed to be on the mom nowadays, rather than like the kids taking part in it.
Okay,
Definitely
good
looking any
points.
better than they do coming home from school. And yeah, I think it's different for sure.
Anybody else want to add to that? Different impressions or similar impressions?
We got a shy crew here.
That's okay. I teach college students, so I'm used to that.
We can.
I'm sorry, I caught a little bit of it, so I didn't.
Okay, that's fine. So like I said, I teach undergrad psychology courses. I show this video all the time to my students, and most of them are like, what are we watching? I've never seen anything like this. The reason why I show it is, well, for a number of reasons, but the reason why I'm showing it tonight is because it gives us a very different look at the American family in this era, 1950. And if we watch the whole thing, you would see that there are very specific roles for each member of the family, specifically for the mother and daughter in this video. And those roles, obviously very tied to specific gender roles and scripts that they had back then. But I want you to put yourself into the mind of like an elementary school or middle school age student in 1950s America, because educational videos like this were what they were shown. So the teacher pulled up that kind of old school projector and showed a video like this. And the idea is they're supposed to learn how to be better people. And the lessons and values that they learn from this video is when you are a young woman, you're supposed to help out around the house. You're supposed to look pretty and attractive, even for your male family members, which is a little bizarre. You're supposed to help mom. Mom is supposed to get dinner going and look restful. And it's feel free to go on YouTube and watch the whole 10-minute video, because it really is interesting. But the reason why I'm showing it now in this discussion tonight is because, sorry, 1 second, is because these were some of the rules, values that our parents and our grandparents learned, that our mothers and our grandmothers learned about how to be as a mom. And in many ways, they pass down some of these rules and values to mothers today, to many of you. But it doesn't quite work anymore. This 1950s family is a very different family from the family today. So what does the family today look like? What does, more specifically, the role of mom look like, the 21st century mom? Well, we got a really good, or I guess in this case, bad glimpse into mom's role last year with quarantining and during the pandemic. A Pew Research study came out last year that basically was looking at, for parents that were working from home during the pandemic, what were their childcare responsibilities? And we can see there's disproportionately those childcare responsibilities fell on the mom. And that's really disappointing, especially because, it's 2021, at the time 2020, and we like to think that, our generation is better than that. But unfortunately, this trend has been going on for a long time. Even research in the past 20 years, I've highlighted a couple different studies here. Childcare and housework both fall disproportionately on the responsibility of mom. One study back in 2015, when they interviewed 1,800 couples, so a pretty large study. It revealed that in relationships where both parents worked, the mother took care of the children 76% of the time. And that's the same goes with housework responsibilities, that on average, moms are spending double the amount of time doing housework than their husbands. So these are unfortunate. And I don't want you to go like kick your husband out right now because of those statistics, because I do feel that dads and husbands of today are getting better at helping with childcare and housework responsibilities. But it's really important to recognize that we're still seeing these disparities at home. And I'm guessing that some of you are like nodding, like, yeah, this is totally accurate of what my experience at home is like. So I work with a lot of moms in therapy, and I see there was one woman who gave me a really great example of what her life is like, and it was like she told me about how she has this second shift that she goes to. She goes to work all day, Monday through Friday. She gets out, she drives home, and as she's getting into her car, she's like, okay, now I'm clocking into my second shift. The second shift is what a lot of us as parents end up doing while we're managing our households. And that looks like, I get out of work, get my car, go to the grocery store, pick up groceries, and I'm cooking dinner, and I'm driving to sports and activities, doing laundry, other housework chores, checking work emails or checking other emails, and then most importantly, being emotionally available to kids and to your partner. So this is problematic for a number of reasons, because it doesn't really leave much time for you as a person, as an individual. Yes, you're a part of your family, and your family can be very fulfilling, but where is the time for yourself? Okay, so that's something we're going to talk about tonight: the stressors, the burnout, and trying to avoid burnout. So I've really laid the groundwork for this problem I think many of you may be facing if you decided to come here tonight and watch this. So what's the solution? Well, I have a couple different tips and techniques and stuff that I think will help you try to prevent burnout and make some more time for yourself. Some of these tips you may have heard before. I know there's a lot of like mental health stuff, positive mental health stuff going on social media, on TV, and that's great that we're having those conversations. So yeah, some of these things you've heard before, they work, but the problem is, how do I figure out how to integrate that into my life? So here are just a couple of different things that we're going to touch on this evening in the next 15, 20 minutes or so. One, coping skills. Coping skills are super important. We know that we have to cope. We know that coping skills help us avoid long-term mental health issues. The problem is that a lot of people have pretty maladaptive coping skills. So we're going to talk about how can you assess what your current coping skills are, add some new ones, and including the coping skill of me time. And I know that you're sitting there like, me time, I could barely make it to this webinar tonight. How am I supposed to schedule me time? Well, that's okay. All right, we'll figure it out together. And then third, I have a couple parenting tips that I think are going to be helpful to de-stress your life. Now, I know, we're all parents here tonight, and we have kids at all different ages, but that's okay. These tips should be pretty universal. All right. First approach that I'd like to introduce, I call the Michael Scott approach. So I always have this vision when I'm working with moms in therapy as they're describing what their duties are at home. And this kind of metaphor that gets in my mind is I see, this woman who's sitting at a big managerial desk that's planted like right in the center of the living room or the dining room or something. And every time, your spouse or your kids need to make some kind of move or ask some question or do something, that they come to you for approval. And I see it time and time again. So like, Mom, where's my jersey for soccer? Mom, I have to bake a cake for class tomorrow. Mom, I forgot to do my homework. Or honey, who's going to get the car from the shop tomorrow. So all the members of the family are coming to you to solve the problems, to answer the questions. And I'm going to partly blame you for that. And I know that sounds mean, but the reason why I do is because if you are that micromanager, part of the problem is because you have set up that dynamic. And I see this with many moms that I work with. They set up a dynamic in their home of, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done correctly or properly or the right way. And that's because as a mom and as an individual, you have high standards for yourself, for your spouse, for your kids, for your family, for your household. And you're trying to meet those standards. And because you struggle with allowing the other members of your household to meet those standards as well, or you might not trust that they can meet those standards, you kind of throw up your hands and you're like, whatever, I'm just going to do it myself. But that creates a really big problem, because you don't need to be the micromanager of your house. If anything, it's going to stress you out even more. So we need to get away from this micromanager mindset. So the advice I'd like to give to you is do less. Figure out how to do less. And you're like, okay, I'm out of here. This guy's telling me to do less. This doesn't make any sense. Well, it might make more sense if we put it into this context. Instead of being the micromanager, you are now the delegator. As the person who is running your household, you need to delegate all responsibilities to other people. And I know that you're thinking, well, the last time I let my husband do the laundry, he put his red t-shirt into the whites and ruined the whole thing. Well, guess what? Everybody in your life who is living under your roof needs to learn how to fail and learn how to make mistakes. And that includes the kids and your spouse and, you know, your parent, if one of your parents is living with you. You can't be the micromanager. You must be the delegator. You must delegate responsibilities to everybody who can physically do it, and then let them fail until they figure out how to do it. I get nuts with dishwashing. I love a clean sink, but my sink is rarely ever clean. I'm also a dishwasher Nazi. So I like to have the dishes and the cups and everything in properly, because that's what my mom taught me, because she was a micromanager, and everything must be in its perfect place. Otherwise it won't get clean. But I learned to let that go, that my kids have to learn how to first fail, make mistakes by improperly loading the dishwasher, or even bigger things that mean a lot more, like missing homework assignments, screwing up in sporting events, or getting to a practice late. Like all of these things that we are worried about. Oh, what if people think I'm a bad mom because my son forgot his project, or he forgot it was picture day, or whatever. It doesn't matter. We're going to talk about that mindset next, but it doesn't matter, because all of these people in our life need to learn how to fail and make mistakes, because that's the only way. So it's going to be like pretty chaotic and frustrating in the beginning when you start delegating all these responsibilities for housework and, you know, everything else that needs to get done, because you're basically going to be in a mess of people making mistakes. But not only will they learn how to not make those mistakes in the future, they're going to be learning how they don't have to come to you, the old micromanager, to check in with every move they make, everything that they do. Okay. The final tip for the Michael Scott approach is sometimes, and I really had to learn this the hard way, you're going to come home to a sink filled with dishes, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes those dishes just need to be dirty. Sometimes that pile of laundry, even if it's been a week or 2 weeks, just doesn't need to be folded, because you need to ask yourself the question, what's more important to me, my mental health or a clean sink? My mental health or my child's grade in social studies? My mental health or a number of things, okay? All right. I hear a lot of mom worries in the line of work that I do. They come to me and we have a session, and I'll hear all different kinds of worries and stressors and anxieties, and they look like things like, what if my kid, whatever, or if I don't do this, it won't get done properly. Or what if, I've heard this many times, what if I'm permanently damaging my kids? So this next approach I'd like you to try integrating into your life is what I call the who cares mindset. And you're going to be like, this guy is really cold and disgusting. I can't believe he's a therapist. Let me give you a couple different examples. What if my daughter loads the dishwasher wrong? Who cares? What if my son forgets to turn in his homework? Who cares? What if I'm giving my kid too many responsibilities? Who cares? Who cares is a beautiful mindset to have. Because all of these what if questions are anxiety questions. Anytime we ask ourselves, what if, chances are whatever's following that is going to be either a little bit irrational or a lot irrational. Chances are it's going to be a worry or a fear or some kind of anxiety about something that might happen or something that could happen. Anything, well, maybe most things, we'll say, most things that fall into that category, we can write off as anxiety, and it's irrational. And even if it happens, I'll be able to deal with it. And that's one of the biggest things, one of the biggest problems that I see with lots and lots of moms that I've worked with over the years, is this feeling that I must be in control at all times. And I'm not equipped, I'm not resilient, I'm not strong enough to be able to deal with these things that might happen. So that's a problem. If you're someone who feels like I need to be in control of everything, then I need you to find some I need you to find some comfort in that uncomfortable feeling that I'm not in control. And I also need you to realize that you are an incredibly adaptable person, that if any of the answers to these what if questions happen in real life, that you're adaptable and you can improvise and you can deal with it in the moment, okay? Even big issues, even big problems, like I have a teenager and my teenager has a mental health issue. Guess what? You can deal with that because people deal with it all the time. And you're a strong person and you're a good parent, okay? So going forward, when you notice those anxieties, those worries popping into your mind, before you just impulsively act on those things, you need to pause and say, who cares? I don't know what's going to happen, but that's okay. I'm adaptable. I can deal with it. Okay. I appreciate your attention thus far. We don't have too many slides left. Okay. Okay. So we've talked about the overall issue. You don't really have a lot of time on your hands. You have too many responsibilities. You have these nagging worries. What if I'm a bad mom? What if I'm making mistakes? What if I'm doing the wrong thing? That sounds like a lot. I'd like you to picture your mind as this smartphone, okay? This isn't a good picture. I know that when you see this, it means you need to get your charger because your phone's about to die, and hopefully you won't need an Uber in that moment. Think of your mind maybe right before the school year starts. Your vacation has ended. Maybe you haven't even started school shopping yet. You're feeling fully charged. You feel good. You feel motivated. You feel excited. Now it's a couple weeks into your kid's school year, or it's a couple months, and your battery has drained. That is burnout. Burnout is a dead phone battery, okay? We want to try to prevent that. It's like early intervention, okay? I'm a big proponent of risk management over damage control, because what a lot of the damage control folks do are unhealthy coping behaviors. So consider this list here, okay? A lot of times when people are feeling stressed out or burned out, they withdraw socially. They go into their bedrooms, they close the door, they turn the TV on, they scroll through social media, but they're not interacting with people. A lot of people use this negative coping behavior of social withdrawal. A lot of people stress eat or overeat. And I'm not going to go into all the reasons why, because I know you know them already. Of why stress eating or binge eating is bad for your health. Okay. A lot of people have this negative coping skill or unhealthy coping skill of displaced anger. So you're at your work or you're at your kid's school and there's some argument you have or some bad interaction with a superior at work, and you can't really put that anger and frustration out on that person. So you come home and you get into a fight or argument with your spouse, you get into an argument with your kids, and now that anger that you've been carrying is displaced on somebody else. And I can imagine a lot of us at times or sometimes too often use alcohol, marijuana, or some kind of other substance to numb the pain, to make us feel better, because that's what alcohol and marijuana and other drugs do. They give us a sense of euphoria. They make us feel relaxed. That's how those drugs work on our central nervous system. But we're in that when we're using any kind of substance to deal with that, we're not actually dealing with the emotion. We're not actually experiencing or feeling the emotion. We're just temporarily taking the pain away. So let's talk about a few healthy coping skills that I think are really beneficial. One being, and this is a really important one that we overlook often, social support. What does that mean for you? Friends. If you're the type of person who has a group chat or multiple group chats, who's in Facebook groups for moms or other groups of people, who's frequently talking with your partner, with your family members, extended family members, if you're going to church or some other social group, if you're going out with your friends regularly, that's fantastic. As human beings, we are incredibly social animals. A lot of really good things happen when we are in groups and we're talking about things and venting about things. So social support is incredibly important. And I know as an adult, people in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, our relationships change, our friendships change a lot. I know that the friends that I had in high school, the friends that I had in college, a lot of them I'm not really friends with anymore because we don't really have those shared experiences or shared interests. So it's completely fine to carve out that social niche of people who you have shared interests with, multiple groups of shared interests. I know for a lot of moms, they develop friendships with other moms because, our friends our kids are friends, so we can be friends too. Sometimes those are pretty strong relationships. Sometimes those aren't really authentic friendships, and that's okay. So rely on your social support networks as much as you can. Self-care. I'm sure you've heard this word before, this term. It's a buzzword, okay? But it's one of those things where you've heard it, but you really need to learn how to utilize it in your life. You can think of self-care as your iPhone charger, okay? Every time you're doing some kind of self-care activity, you're charging your phone, you're avoiding burnout. So I've told you all these different things that you can do to try to free up your time in your schedule, including delegating responsibilities. But one thing a lot of moms that I work with struggle with is once they have all this free time, they're like, I'm not really sure what to do with this. It feels almost uncomfortable, like, whoa, the kids are taken care of, my husband's doing his own thing. I'm sitting here and I'm not sure what to do. So that's when we start asking ourselves, what are the hobbies? What are the interests? What are the things that really make us feel passionate and fulfill us? And how can I use my newly found spare time to engage in those activities? So figure out what that self-care. For me, at the end of each day, I love reading. I'm a big fiction reader. I read all different types of books. I love going for long walks in the evening, sometimes like 4 or 5 miles, and I'll listen to a book or a podcast. I love cleaning and I love cooking new recipes, and I absolutely love video games, and I hope that doesn't turn any of you off, but it's my self-care thing. I like doing all of those things for myself. And surely other people benefit from that too when I'm cleaning up the house and cooking good meals, but that's stuff that I do just for me. And that's the thing about self-care, is it should be just for you and nobody else. Aerobic exercise. I'm sure many of you are rolling your eyes right now, as I probably would if I were in your seat. But the reason why I bring aerobic exercise up is because we know from the science of psychology that aerobic exercise releases a lot of good, feel good neurotransmitters and hormones. It makes us feel good. So what I want you to do is, instead of being like, okay, Sean tells me to do some aerobic exercise, I'm gonna get my gym membership, I'm gonna buy all these new activewear outfits, and I'm gonna do a whole new exercise routine and make like a great beach body. Forget all of that. It's all nonsense. Okay. You should do aerobic exercise for your mental health. Every time when I go for a walk or I have a Peloton at home, when I get on the Peloton, I got to tell myself, this is for my mental health first. And if I lose weight and start looking good or start feeling good afterwards, that's going to be a byproduct of this, that mental health comes first. Along with aerobic exercise, sex. I teach human sexuality at Penn State Brandywine, along with other courses. And there's a whole science of sex. What we know about sex is that when we are having sex, it increases closeness and intimacy with our partner. It releases feel-good neurotransmitters and hormones like dopamine and oxytocin. And it also, long-term studies have found that frequent sex lowers our anxiety, lowers our blood pressure, and actually promotes healthy cell growth in our brains, okay? The final healthy coping skill, therapy. I know I'm biased because I'm a therapist, but I think therapy is a fantastic skill, a fantastic support system. Sometimes it just feels good to go somewhere for an hour and talk about yourself. That feels really good. And have somebody listen and to vent about your day or vent about a problem. Sometimes it feels good to get an outsider's perspective, an unbiased perspective. And sometimes it feels good to take things that we've experienced in our life, struggles and traumas and things that we're going through currently, and connect all the dots and really step back and see this beautiful portrait of us. And that's why I think therapy is very beneficial. So I'm going to end this part of this webinar with a couple of resources, and then we'll open it up to a Q&A. First resource, our social media accounts. Kim does a really great job of running my Instagram and Facebook pages. We talk weekly about different topics, different things that I'm seeing with people that I work with. I write some posts, she writes some posts. And so we put a lot of effort into these social media accounts. And so feel free to follow us, and my website's right below there too. As I said, I'm a frequent reader. So here are a couple books, nonfiction books, self-help books that I think are helpful, that are all fairly new, have come out in the last few years. So this one's called Breath. There is a science that I learned about when reading this, about how to breathe properly, how breathing properly can actually help lower our stress and our anxiety. So this is a really interesting one. Maybe you should talk to someone. This is a book about therapy, written by a therapist who had gone through therapy. Mating in Captivity. If you have never heard of this woman, Esther Perel, and here's her podcast right here too. She is a marriage counselor, has written great books, and does this great podcast where she actually records herself doing marriage counseling. She, has really great information on bettering your relationship with your partner. And then this book, I'm a big fan of mindfulness meditation, so I wanted to throw a mindfulness book in there. This is called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics. And it's written by a guy named Dan Harris, and he's actually a news anchor on Good Morning America. I think he just left, actually. I think he just left the show so he could invest all of his time in this 10% Happier brand that he has built based purely on mindfulness. So yeah, there's a lot of great resources out there to better yourself. And I know many of you have probably utilized them in the past. So I figured now would be a great time for us, while we still have time left, to just open it up to questions or comments or anything that's on your mind. Any questions at all?
I think we really do have a shy group, but you
That's
also
okay.
covered a lot.
That's true. I talk too much sometimes. That's one of my weaknesses.
No, it was beneficial. It's really beneficial. It's super helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was really nice. That was
Oh, thanks.
definitely helpful. And I'm looking forward to the books and everything. So
Good.
Thanks.
If there are people that you know that couldn't make it tonight, or someone who didn't know about this, I did make a recording of this. So feel free to reach out to me through my website or any other contact info I have on here. And you can ask for the recording and share it around, or just if you have a question that you don't feel comfortable talking about here. Any other questions? Yes, Amanda, you have your hand raised. Sorry.
Hi, Sean. How are you? Thank you
Good,
so
how are
much for
you?
doing this. I'm
Yes.
actually doing this as I'm trying to take care of all the kids. So this is super fun. No, go away.
Hi.
Do you do any type of like group support for women? I feel like the social aspect is like the one I have the hardest time with, because when I'm not
Yeah.
feeling great, when I'm not feeling up to it, I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to hang out here and just veg. And then I
Yeah.
get worse and worse and worse.
I know, I've been there too. I get into that slump sometimes too. I'm not currently running any groups. It's
Okay.
something I've considered in the past, and if I get some more interest, then that might be something I can open up to. If you're looking for a current group that's running,
Yeah.
in the office that I'm in media, there are several female therapists who are excellent group therapists. So they have a couple women's groups that are running right now. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out to me and I'll
Okay.
send you their contact info too.
Awesome. And if I reach out to you, could you send me just maybe some copies of these things? Because I didn't have a pencil and nobody had paper.
Of course. That's no problem. Yeah, I can send along anybody who requests it. You can DM me on Instagram, you can email me, you can call me. Anybody who requests it, I can give you a PDF of the PowerPoint. I can give you a lecture video. I can answer questions that you have. Okay.
Sean, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
of
really
course.
appreciate it.
Thank you for participating.
Hey,
Anybody else
You
have
got
questions?
it. I might be calling you soon.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for taking your time out to be here. I know that this isn't the easiest thing to do, to carve out an hour on a Tuesday night. So reach out if you have other questions or comments. And it was really nice seeing you all. And I hope this was beneficial for you.
Thanks so much, Sean.
Sure. You guys have a good
Thanks,
night.
Sean. Thanks, Kim, for putting it together.
Oh my God, yeah. It was all Sean. I just helped.
Well, I appreciate it because I think